I think when it comes to leading the way in technology, Callaway in the last sort of 10 years have really pushed the needle. Think back to jailbreak technology and the Epic driver where you had those bars sat behind the face, all to do with trying to control the face at impact and giving us the most impressive ball speeds out there on the market. And then as they've worked with AI again, they've kind of focused on the face again to control that ball flight a little bit more. Well, I'm introducing you now to the Quantum driver, which Callaway is saying is going to be their fastest driver yet. I'm excited to see what they've got to offer us this year. So 3 models that I'm going to be looking at here today, all actually looking very similar when I set them up behind the ball. We've got that carbon look that I've seen in previous generations. We've got that rail that runs along the top there. And then we've got that little bit of chevron on one of the models, and we'll talk about that as we go into it as well. But all in all, it looks very Callaway when you set it up down by the ball. So if you look at the faces of these drivers, you're going to see the reference Triforce at the bottom. You're also going to see it on the head cover. And this is where Callaway have got their breakthrough technology of 3 materials that are ultra thin and brought together. We've got titanium, we've got polymesh, and we've also got carbon fiber, which ultimately is going to give us those ball speeds and distance that we're looking for. Now, if you think about it, as an average golfer, and the things that separates, let's say, the top players that we see on TV from day to day and us out on the golf course is the fact that we don't always strike it in the perfect spot, right out of the middle, right out of that sweet spot. We kind of scatter it around the face a little bit in the heel, sometimes maybe high out of the toe. And what we're going to see from that is some different ball flights. We're going to see some different spin numbers, and we're going to see some inconsistency when it comes to distance as well. However, Callaway have been focusing on this with their next generation AI optimized face design. And this is ultimately bringing all those technologies together, giving us the performance that we need from the shots that I've just talked about. So when we hit it out the middle, we're going to get the ball speeds and the consistency that we're wanting. However, if we hit it a little bit low in the heel or we hit it a little bit high in the toe, we want to try and get that consistency dialed in as well and make sure we still hit the fairways, but also get it out there with that distance that we're seeking. Now, before I get into the testing of these drivers, we've got a few different models available. We've got the Triple Diamond, which historically has always been their most powerful unit out there. And we've got tour-inspired head with that Triple Diamond at 450 cc's with the movable weight now in the back there, which we'll get into in just a moment. We've also got another driver, which is a Triple Diamond Max, which is, again, has been tour-inspired and is actually 460 cc's in its profile, so slightly bigger. Again, very similar on the back there with the weight port being able to be moved around. And then we've got the Max driver, the Quantum Max driver, which again looks a little bit different in its profile when you turn it upside down to the Triple Diamonds. However, again, on the back, we've got those weight ports which are movable. Now, the difference between these 3 when it comes to the weight ports, we've got a fade and neutral kind of movement on the back of the Triple Diamond, which is the same in the Triple Diamond Max. But then when you move into the Quantum Max, we've got neutral to draw bias. They also have an option available, which is the Max Draw version for those golfers out there that want something that's going to maybe just quieten down their slice when they get out onto the golf course. Now, as to be expected with the Quantum Max, I'm seeing some really good consistencies out of this driver, and I think this is the driver that's going to fit into the majority of golfers' golf bags out there, because the consistency off the ball flight was impressive, but also the consistency in my spin numbers. From all the testing that I was doing, the spin was staying really, really tight around 2,500 revs, but also my distance control, not really moving much when it comes to yardage with this particular driver. And then we move into the Triple Diamond Max driver, which is the kind of newly inspired driver that has come out from the tour, really. It's a driver that looks a little bit bigger in its profile, which ultimately is going to give it a little bit more stability when it comes to this particular driver. So we're getting the power that we're probably going to get out of that Triple Diamond, but also we're going to get a little bit more stability, which again is going to help with a little bit of confidence. And the numbers that I saw from this particular driver, just a little bit of an increase when it came to the ball speed that I was getting from the Quantum Max, which is to be expected. That weight just a little bit put forward towards the face, which again is going to increase that ball speed. And then I'm going to see that spin number just drop down a fraction, around 500 revs difference to what I'm seeing out of that Quantum Max. And then because the spin has changed and the ball speed has kind of gone up, it means that my distance is getting out there just a little bit further. But the driver that is going out there the furthest yet again when it comes to Callaway is the actual Triple Diamond itself. And this is probably to be expected really, because historically the Triple Diamond has been their most powerful driver. And the numbers that I'm seeing from this particular driver, again, an increase in that ball speed compared to, let's say, the Triple Diamond Max, only slightly, but the spin numbers are really dropping down, exactly what I've seen from previous generations, which ultimately is giving me that distance, getting it out there just that little bit further, which might sound exciting, and it is kind of exciting when you see it launch on a launch monitor or on the range, but when I'm putting it into play on the golf course, that little bit of a drop off when it comes to the spin is probably going to be a little bit volatile when we get out onto the golf course. So I'm not going to hit that many fairways, even though I'm getting it just a little bit further down there. Which is why I always say it's so important to get custom fit for any club in your bag, and especially when it comes to the driver. Yes, we could be fooled by those numbers getting out there maybe a little bit further, but ultimately, is it going to perform for you on the golf course? And that's the importance of having a conversation with your foremost professional team, because ultimately they're going to help you when it comes to finding a driver that's going to fit in your golf bag, that's going to perform at every level that you play with. So go and have a conversation with the foremost professional team, book yourself in for a fitting with Callaway and see which one of these drivers is going to work best for your game.